Okay, so yesterday was OpenAI's Dev Day, and I did a whole video covering what they basically announced, etc. But one of the key things that looked really interesting was this whole idea of Agent Builder, and really that's part of AgentKit. So what I want to do in this video is go and actually look at building some agents with Agent Builder, looking at how it works for some of the examples that they made, but then also putting together something ourselves that we can actually try this out and see the strengths and the weaknesses of this. Okay, so when you come into Agent Builder, you're presented with a number of different things. So probably one of the most interesting parts is the templates. So you can see sort of some examples of different templates that they've got here and see how that they're structured. So let's actually look at the structured data Q&A. Now you've got a layout here that is in many ways similar to things like make.com, like NAN, like a lot of these sort of drag and drop builders. And on the side here, we've got a bunch of nodes that we can either drag across or set up. And then we can click into each of these things. And on the right side, we will have a bunch of settings that we can change. So you can see here with this workflow, it's going to basically start out, it's going to go through some guardrails, then goes into sort of a classification part where it then works out, okay, what's going to be guiding. It then goes into an if else node where it will basically then direct it based on the classification that came out of the agent here. So if we're looking at this as something like LangGraph or something like that, you've got your nodes, and then these sort of bits over here are going to be like edges where they decide, these are actually conditional edges that kind of decide which node do you go to next. And then when you get to that node, you'll see that they've got different things going on, including the ability to use tools to basically have a little bit of control over the output that you've got going on in here as well. So this is another example of sort of a personal assistant here. And you can see it basically goes in and we've got a prompt rewriter. So we've got where, okay, rewrite the user's question to be more specific and relevant to the knowledge base that's in here. And then we pass in the original question, and this is going to be rewritten by the GPT-5 model in here. It's then going to go on to basically determine whether this question should use Q&A or fact-finding. So this is a classification agent. And we can see down here that, okay, the way it does the classification is it basically predicts out operating procedure of an enum, and that can either be Q&A, fact-finding, or other in here. And then from that, we come to an if-else node. And we can see the if-else nodes are kind of really self-explanatory as conditional edges that we can see if the output of that was Q&A, and we can see the input, output passed, operating procedure. So this shows us that we're getting the JSON back. We're getting the operating procedure variable on the JSON. And if that's Q&A, then we're going to take this route of going to internal Q&A. If it's fact-finding, we're going to take this route. And if it's something else, we're going to go to this agent here. So looking at those agents, let's have a look at what they are. So the first one is going to be doing web search. So this is a nice simple one where, okay, we've got a prompt in there. It's then going to use GPT-5 to actually do a web search. We can see the output that we're going to get is going to be text. The verbosity is medium. And this is going to be passed back to the chat. If it's an external fact-finding thing, we've got both web search and the code interpreter tool in here. And if it's neither of those, this is where it basically asks the user for more details so that their query can be classified as one of these outputs. So what I think is, let's jump in and have a look at how this would actually work for building our own agent in here. Okay, so I've come in here to create a new workflow, and you can see that any of these agents I can just drag across, right? And then basically fill out the details of what they are. If I want to, I can just delete the step, etc. I can also put in notes if I want to basically write some notes to myself. It's actually, I kind of feel a really useful touch, and certainly something that allows you to sort of perhaps brainstorm out your plan. I actually think that you could actually sort of be able to put a prompt in the note and have it fill out more details for you. Then we've got things like tools. So The tools here, we've got things like file search. So if we want to load something up, this is going to basically create like a little mini RAG for us that we can set the number of results that we're going to get back. We can create a vector store, and we'll look at that in a second. We've got things like guardrails, which I'll look at, and then even things like MCPs. So if we wanted to actually set up an MCP, we can actually come in here, pick the server, etc., that we want to put in here, fill out the details for that, and create something that will basically call an external MCP, or we can go for ones by OpenAI, ones by other developers in here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with something a little bit simple. We've got our start node, right? So that's going to basically just bring things in. I'm going to basically have a guardrails starting out. And one of the guardrails that's quite nice is this jailbreak one. So this basically stops people from putting prompts in to try and jailbreak your agent. And I don't know how successful it is. My guess is that probably some people can get around it, but you can sort of see that, okay, this is definitely easier than a lot of how the agent systems have you sort of code up things like this. And then I can just have like, if it fails that agent, then it's just going to end, right? And if it's going to pass, we can come over here and we're going to have it go to a classifier agent in a sec. Let's just have a look at the other things in guardrails. So we could do moderation sort of stuff. So we could basically block harmful content, etc. And we've got settings that we could set for that, right? If we basically want it to have a whole bunch of what do we want to actually kind of block for this. In our jailbreak one, we can see that, okay, what's the model? What's the confidence threshold that they're actually using for the guardrail in there? And then we've got things like hallucination, where if we wanted to basically ground our responses on some vector store, we can also sort of put that in there. Now, in this case, I'm just going to go for the simple sort of jailbreak one. We're going to basically have that come out. And then following up from this, we're going to have our sort of classifier. Now, what I'm going to do is build a travel agent for the theme park Westworld, right? So what we want is something that can answer questions about that, be able to handle things where the queries are not Westworld. And for the time being, I'm going to basically put this as a query classifier. Now, when you want to basically do some sort of classifier, you want the output to be structured. So if we come down here and we just select JSON, we can now go in and add in a schema. And what I've found so far testing is often I would like to maybe use a Boolean or something like that. That seems to be so-so. So what seems to be working better is to have an enum. So we'll call this user topic. We'll put in a description, the topic that the user's conversation is talking about. And you can see in here, we're going to put the enum. So it can be Westworld, it can be other, it could be non-travel. Let's put those in as our enums for the start. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to put in a system prompt in here. Please classify the user's input based on the topic that they are querying about as either being Westworld, other, or non-travel. Make sure to output structured data. Okay, so you can see that I've got that done now. All right, next up, what I want is basically like an if-else after this. So our output from this is going to come in here. We're then going to say, okay, so if it's Westworld stuff, we want to take the output past user topic, right? And that's going to be equal to, okay, now I've set up these. I just need to go back and check my response schema. So I've got non-travel, other, Westworld. Okay, so coming in here, Westworld, other, non-travel. All right, so now what I want to do is set up some different agents for this. So if I basically come to other travel, I'll make that an agent. And I'm not going to give this any details or anything like that. I'm just going to basically give it a simple system prompt. Handle the user's query by politely declining and explain that you only handle travel for the Westworld theme park. If they are interested in Shogun World or any of the other Delos theme parks, they should contact other representatives. Okay, we've got another one here of where we will basically put up a thing saying, explain to the user that you only do queries that are related to the Westworld theme park, and you can't handle anything that is non-travel related, and all other queries should be directed to Delos customer support. Okay, so I've got the two for that. And then now I need to set up my Westworld one. And if you look here, what I've done is I've made a Westworld travel agent master guide markdown document. So this has a whole bunch of information about the park. It should have some things around pricing. You can see the pricing thumbs there. We've got a whole bunch of different things that people can sort of ask and information in there. And we're going to use that for our vector store in here. So what do I want to do? I want to say, first off, let's add this as a file search in here. So we need to upload. Okay, now I've uploaded that. I'm going to call it Westworld as the name of the vector store in there. Now it's going to go through and actually process that from what we can see there. And so I'm going to need a system prompt in here using the information in the Westworld travel database, answer customers' questions with that information and without generating any false information or details. Make sure that you sell to them in a convincing and friendly manner. Okay, so you can see that now we're using this to basically get the results out. We can see that we want to include the chat history going into this as we're sort of going through everything. All right, so we've got this here. And what I want to know is I want to ask it some questions about Westworld. So I'm going to ask it, can you create me a sample itinerary and include pricing for a trip for me and my wife to go to Westworld? Okay, we can see it's triggering the guardrails. It's classified this. We should see the query classifier come back as Westworld in here. And sure enough, user topic is Westworld. So it's gone to this top agent. And now we're seeing that it's going to basically use the Westworld travel database from the file information to pull out various information going through this. We can see that what it's sort of searched for going through this. And then we get our final answer back, fantastic. I love to cross a Westworld escape for you too. Here's a 3-day Sweetwater for 2 sample itinerary. We've got about who it is, some information about that. We can see where it's actually getting this from our document, which is nice to see in there. Okay, pricing. Has it given us the pricing? Yes. Okay, so this basically costs $40,000 to $55,000 a day per guest. So we're looking at sort of $250,000 plus for going on this holiday. Definitely pricey. And we can see that, okay, some difficulty add-ons. It's got some stuff about that, like if you want to confront, I guess, the Rattlesnake Ridge Trail, a whole bunch of different things that relate to the actual TV show and also relate to what's in our document in there. Let's say, can we meet Maeve? Not sure about the spelling there, but let's see. So it's going to come through. Now, you can see here that I probably would want to think about like, okay, how would I handle these things? So it did work out that was Westworld, but I might want to have something that's like Westworld characters and then have another section about this. Yes, Maeve is generally available to schedule within Westworld arcs. She's featured in the Marrow Process, Saloon. Okay, it's all on track for what we want. What about if I say, can you tell me details about going to Disneyland? So this now is basically, we want a kind of rejection from this. So we're going to come through here. It's going through our guardrails. All that should pass, but we should get something that it's other, right? So notice it's now gone to this different agent here. And now we should get some kind of rejection. I'm sorry, I can't help with Disneyland. I only handle travel planning for Westworld theme park. Okay, so this has worked pretty well. So it's a simple sort of agent you can sort of see here, but we do have this all ready. Now we can publish this. I'm going to call this the Westworld Travel Agent. And now we've got this where we can actually sort of deploy it. We can either use the chat kit, which I think I'll make a separate video about that, or we can actually just come in here get the Agents SDK and get the full code for this. So I can take this code, then actually put it into wherever I want to run it. And the cool thing with this is from this, I could actually take it and change the models. So I'm pretty sure Agents SDK lets us use other models, but we are kind of limited to their file search and their guardrails, etc., going through this. So overall, you can see this is very easy to get started. You've got a whole bunch of different things that you can do with this. And I've got to say that this is going to become a go-to tool for a lot of people who are looking for easy way to build agents. So I wonder what the effect of this is going to be on N8N. Maybe it's not an N8N killer, but it certainly is something that's going to be a nice, easy way for people to design agents, get things going, and then maybe export it out of this system. So obviously for me, the downside of it is you don't want to get stuck in this. What we really would like is to have sort of like an open source version of something like this that could build for multiple agent frameworks, not just the OpenAI Agent SDK, but maybe for things like LangGraph, ADK, Pydantic AI, etc. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of this. Have you had play with it yourself? Do you see this as like an N8N killer? What do you think is missing out of this? That's the other thing I'm sort of thinking. Now, I didn't show MCPs, but we could certainly set up an MCP with this. So that's kind of cool that we can really sort of wire anything that we want into this and then be able to use it. And like I said before, I think I'll do another video where we look at the actual chat kit part of this, because I think that is really interesting in itself. And I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that, whether that's locking you into OpenAI too much, or whether that has the potential to become a really good way to make nice and easy chat UI front ends, etc. Anyway, as always, if you found the video useful, please click like and subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.